Well, hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. It's Connor. We're back here with another episode on One Leeds. By God, we are back, baby. We're back. The 14th of September, Leeds United facing Burnley, which I am very, very much looking forward to. This international break takes it out of you. And by God, everybody, we've got some more coming. However, for one of them, there could be a little bit of an exciting trip for One Leeds on the cards. But today's episode, as always, everybody is sponsored by IPM Group UK, a top provider of security and facilities management services across the UK, whether it's CCTV monitoring, commercial cleaning, or custom security solutions. IPM Group offers 24/7 support and cutting-edge technology, people. And guess what? They are Leeds fans, massive Leeds fans. Link is in the description below. Without IPM Group, it would be difficult to provide you guys with these videos. But of course, we have oneleeds.com, everybody, for your article needs as well. Go check that out. We have Patreon as well, and we have all of your merchandise. I'm going to be listing it on the Patreon today, a giveaway for the merchandise. On the merchandise, we've got Al Tanaka stuff now. We've got loads of other bits on our collaboration with Back4, so the link in the description is fresh for that one if you guys want to get involved. And obviously, you have to be part of the Patreon to be involved in this particular giveaway, but we will be doing more. Link in the description for that. So how are we doing this Monday morning, everybody? I want to get into some of your comments. What is going on? Yeah, we've got a bit to talk about today. As you can see in the title, Brenden Aaronson slammed, and by God, was he? We're going to be speaking a little bit about Burnley as well. I wanted to get into that a little bit. I wanted to get your thoughts on the game coming up and how massive it is, who's going to be starting, who's not going to be starting, and that's what we're going to be speaking about today as well in the latter part of the video. And we're going to be speaking about my doppelganger. But how are we doing anyway? Ina's in the building. Morning, all. Andrew Lamb's in the building. Hello, my friend. Morning, Connor pal. Hope you are well. Gav, how are you doing, buddy? Morning from a rainy Munich, Connor. It looks like it's a European thing, my friend. It is absolutely bouncing it down in Manchester. Big up Tyrell. Cheers, mate. How are you doing, buddy? Half of the squad isn't good enough anyway, so if we go up. Oh, Sam. Shout out to you, my friend. Is the microphone all right anyway? Are we good? Just seen someone comment on that. It's the first time someone's commented on the microphone. When is the counterpoint? The counterpoint, I don't believe, is on today, my friend. Joe, I think he's a little bit busy. So yeah, I'm just waiting to hear from Joe on what we're doing with that. A little bit of a last minute issue. Sometimes it can happen. Everybody, life obviously can get in the way, as we know. But yeah, keep an eye on that one. I'm sure we'll reschedule at some point. But yeah, it's supposed to be on Joe's channel this week, so I'm sure Joe will let us know in due course. Danny says, smash a like and subscribe. Guys, I've not asked for this recently. I went through a period of asking for this, and I need to do it a little bit more. But if you like the video, basically, it just shows up higher in the algorithm for me, and it really helps me doing this thing full time. So thank you so much for your support. We've got our coffee today. And let's get into it, shall we? So, Brenden Aaronson played against the Canadians the other day in a 2-1 loss. And wow, did he get hammered? He obviously, we know with Aaronson that he's part of a little bit of a renaissance when it comes to the US men's national team. With Captain America and Weah and all this sort of stuff, they're building a good team, and they'll build a good team under Pochettino as well. What an appointment that is! But the US media absolutely slammed him for his performance the other day, which I found quite interesting, because obviously he's had a half decent start for Leeds, but I, being the martyr that I am and the bringer down of joy, I've always sort of said with Brenden Aaronson that maybe we just need to hold off a little bit on the praise and all this sort of stuff. You know, he's very, very, very early on in his time at Leeds United in terms of this championship season. Maybe we just need to hold our horses a little bit, pull back the excitement. And look, he's not really played successive 90 minutes for Leeds, as he's not really, been really, as involved as others, to be honest with you. But he's had a good start to the campaign, a decent start to the campaign. But let's just pull back a little bit on maybe what we're saying with him right now. I want to see Brenden Aaronson over 10 games. We mentioned it on the Patreon. I want to see Brenden Aaronson after a real consistent period for Leeds United, because this time he's going to have to step up for a period of time. We know when he's in the Premier League, there was a Chelsea game, there was a lot of games at the start of the season where you thought, who is this boy? Who on earth is this boy? Our new American boy. We even found a chant for him, but it went downhill after that. And I'm not saying that will happen with Brenden. Of course I'm not. And I think the level down will dramatically help. Is everything all right with the mic, everybody? Let me know in the comment section below. I think it's okay anyway. I think we're all good. But a few people mentioning an echo. There really shouldn't be an echo. So, yeah, let me know if it's all right. Just give us a fine in the comment section. We'll just get into Brenden Aaronson. Just mentioned everybody. I think we just need to hold our horses a little bit with him. And it was interesting what the American media was saying about him after this 2-1 display. He was getting absolutely battered. Like, I think he got like a 2, 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10 max. Yeah, sounds fine. Fantastic, lads. Thanks, and ladies. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, let me just read out a quote on his performance. Goal.com couldn't pick out many positive aspects, giving him a 3 out of 10. They just said, just didn't really do much of anything. He wasn't bad, particularly compared to some of his teammates, but he didn't make any positive things happen. He was just running around, head down, and wasn't particularly effective. Now, look, we've said this on the channel before, that sometimes Aaronson can give you a lot of energy, a lot of endeavour, but sometimes it's that composure. However, he has showed in bouts this season that composure has been there. The lovely finish versus Sheffield Wednesday, the fantastic finish against Portsmouth, but it's the inconsistency. It's obviously the game against Portsmouth where he should have won as the game in the last minute with the easiest chance of Leeds United's season so far, and he put it wide. But overall, I'm really satisfied with him. Really, really satisfied with what we've seen. He's come in, and even when he's been asked to come off the bench, he's been effective. You know, he's been really effective. But I will hold off a little bit because, as I've said many times, Premier League was a different standard. But at the beginning of that Premier League season, that Premier League campaign, I remember thinking when he first came in, oh my God, who is this? His pressing, his energy, his endeavour. He's making the right decisions, the right moves. And I was completely wrong, basically. So I'm not basing that, by the way, everybody, on this US game against Canada. I'm just saying it's interesting how, you know, been part of a different setup, even the national side setup, you know, even though a lot of them are absolutely woeful, that we're still seeing some of those tendencies, of which I do think we have seen a little bit of with Leeds United this season with some of them. He played right wing against Canada, says the knockout. Very interesting. Jack Harrison was similar. Yeah, definitely. Digler says, same with all the new players. I need to see at least 10 games from them. Also, on Aaronson being slammed, it might just be their opinion, not exactly fact. Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I'm completely of that mindset. And as I say, I don't think you should base it on this, but it's interesting with the US media. It was flashing up on my social media the night I was getting tagged in this, that, and the other. When it came to Aaronson, there seemed to be a little bit of a bit of hysteria around it. I think Soccer America gave him something like a 2 out of 10. And obviously, with us being Leeds United fans, us having about 6 players on international duty right now, you have to comment on it. You have to talk about it. Does that transition into the domestic league? I don't think it does as much, because I think he's actually been decent for Leeds. But some of those tendencies that we see with Brenden in terms of having his head down, you know, the composure on the ball, those decision-making aspects, I think maybe, in my opinion anyway, some people have got carried away with him being in that number 10 and starting in that number 10. I still would worry about him in that number 10. The vision, the composure on the ball, the effectiveness in terms of picking out a pass. But listen, so far this season, he's been really, really good. I'm really, really happy with him. But let's just hold our horses maybe a little bit on his development as a player. What I'll say as well, everybody, is thank you so much for your donations. We had 3 thanks on the last video. Shout out to all of you guys who made that thanks. I really appreciate it, and it all goes to the development of the channel. Fans need to hold off on Al Tanaka as well. The guy's only been here a few minutes. Dave says, I don't care about what he does for the US men's national team. As long as he does his bit to us. The US men's national team has 8 injuries, and they don't have Pochettino yet. Yeah, the knockout, obviously, of course. When we're talking about Pochettino, it's the long-term thing, isn't it? And what an appointment that is for the US men's national team. But to be fair, NBC gave him a 4.5 out of 10. But it's interesting, isn't it, right now, everybody? Because, you know, are we judging a lot of these new players? I've seen Verba being judged already. I didn't really like his performance against Middlesbrough, have to say that. But I think it's so interesting. At the start of the campaign, it was, oh my God, what depth we've got with Verba there. What depth we've got. And then as soon as he had that Middlesbrough game, it was, oh, he's an absolute you-know-what, and he wants to leave and all this sort of stuff. I was not happy with Max Verber whatsoever. From what you heard, normally there's no smoke without fire, and we've had this with Verber before. From the German media, obviously, was saying that he would welcome a move to Gladbach. That didn't materialise. Do I think he'd have gone to Gladbach? I do. The reason I'm mentioning that is because I think even just the game against Middlesbrough, I think it's too early to judge. I want to see him in a championship campaign. And listen, if he's to play 15 games this season, 10 to 15 games this season, that's when you sort of have got to judge him. You can judge him on a performance, of course you can, but making an assumption on a player after one game in the championship, I think, and not even the championship, was it? It was a cup competition. I think is very, very harsh. I think Verber is really, really good depth, and that's what I'm saying about Brenden Aaronson. Some of the new boys who've come back who might not have been in favour. At least Aaronson's getting exposed to minutes, which I think is positive, of course. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how this develops. Okay, let's talk about the main conversation today, of which you guys are here for, I would assume, and it is on the thumbnail, of course. Okay, so Ben Jacobs, who I believe works for Give Me Sport and does a little bit of Talk Sport, was quoted, I believe it was yesterday. I was going to do a video on it yesterday, but I obviously did my live stream on it yesterday, so I didn't want to touch on it. So I think the 49ers may have to wait a bit longer with 1 or 2 to try and put themselves in a stronger negotiating position. Jacobs told the outlet, and therefore we may not see a flurry of renewals as per Willian Jonso in the next few days or weeks. Bamford, I'm told, is a priority though, and he's willing to extend and has never had an issue playing in the Championship compared to other options. He's very loyal to Leeds. He doesn't want to go anywhere at this stage. The consideration there will be whether he can stay fit and whether Leeds offer a long-term contract, knowing that he's had so many unfortunate problems with injury. So the last bit of that was interesting because he's essentially saying the consideration there will be if he can stay fit and whether Leeds offer him a new long-term contract, knowing that he's had so many unfortunate problems with injury. So I don't know if he's almost... I mean, that's going to be a massive consideration. That literally would be a consideration. That would be not even a consideration. That would be a reason to not give him a new contract, obviously. So, yeah, I kind of get what he's saying there. I understand what he's saying there. And obviously, we know when it's come to some of the veterans in the game, Ayling's moved on. Liam Cooper's gone to CSKA Sofia. So, according to Capology, which is a really good wage sort of breakdown, and I didn't really know this, and we did think that he'd had a bit of a cut, and presumably he has had a cut in his wage, but Bamford is currently the highest paid player in Leeds United's squad, earning £70,000 a week. So there's a lot to talk about here when it comes to Pat. Why is he loyal to Leeds? Well, he's on a hell of a lot of money. That's why he's loyal to Leeds. And, you know, there might be some affinity there. Of course, there might be some affinity there with Leeds United. I presume that there is. I believe if it's the next 2 or 3 years, has he then been here 10 years or something like that? It'll be on testimonial level. Now, obviously with Ben Jacobs, he said here that Bamford, I'm told, is a priority. Now that's a quote, and that's the little bit of the paragraph that is slightly alarming. And he's willing to extend and has never had an issue playing in the Championship, compared to other yeah. And Sam, that's I think that's why Capology is a bit wrong here, which I'm a little bit curious of, to be honest, why that's not been updated, or the article might have it wrong. But yeah, we all know that he slashes wage in half, but still 35-40 grand a week is a lot of money. So yeah, this is if this is true, this is absolutely mental. Now, Willian Jonso, completely understood, obviously. You know, Ethan Ampadu, if you were to ever offer him something completely different, I'd understand that as well. You know, an improved contract, obviously. Other players within that remit, we know Pascal, etc., etc. Now, guys, I'm not saying they're going to be offered new contracts, but if they were to be offered new terms, improved terms for what they've done for this club or what they're currently doing for this club at the end of the season, you get that. Pat Bamford may do okay for Leeds United. When we gave him, I remember speaking to my old man about this, and when the hype wagon was well and truly on, and I was actually doing some bits for All Leeds TV at this time, and I was getting pelters, because that season in the Championship, he scored 16 goals. And I think Leeds were creating about 16 chances per match. You had Pablo Hernandez in behind him, you had Jack Harrison, you had Helder Costa. And I was saying continuously on all Leeds TV videos, I cannot believe he's not scoring more goals. And still, during these games in the Championship, he'd have 4, 5 chances, 3 killer chances, and he put 1 away or none away. And he still missed big chances in the Championship. He went up to the Premier League, and I have to say, he was unbelievable. Now, do I think a lot of that was because Leeds were behind closed doors? I genuinely do. I think Bamford in front of crowds, we know he's a very confidence-based player. I'm not 100% sure that he'd get 17 goals in the Premier League, but he then got a bloody England call-up, for goodness sake. So that part of his career, unbelievable. In terms of that Premier League campaign, the England call-up. But even in the Championship before that, I would say that it wasn't exactly, top level when it came to Pat Bamford, although a lot of fans would disagree. A lot of fans would say Pat Bamford in that Championship season was unbelievable. So good, got us up. It was more than just goals. I would personally disagree. I think if we'd have had probably an Ollie Watkins that season, you'd have got our striker, hitting 25, 30 goals. Obviously, he was at Brentford that year, wasn't he? But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. But he came to, went into the Premier League, was unbelievable. Hat-trick against Villa probably been the pinnacle of it, really. But I think, aside from that, it's been a career at Leeds of which has been thwarted by injuries, thwarted by inconsistency, and thwarted by just a lack of quality for me, a real lack of quality. And Leeds have consistently relied on him from manager to manager to manager. A lot of people would say, there's a reason behind that, Connor. I think a lot of the time it's just recruitment. And obviously we know in the Premier League, he was on 70 grand a week. So we gave him a 5-year deal after, I believe it was that Premier League season, 5 years. So yeah, which obviously is going to take him to 33, I think it was, or 32, 33. And we gave him that obviously at 28. So yeah, I think that giving him a new deal would be ridiculous unless it was, unless they gave it mid-contract and then offered him lower terms or whatever, which obviously is not going to happen, and Bamford wouldn't take that. But he's obviously happy to stay at Leeds because he wouldn't get this money anywhere else, and he wouldn't be playing, in my opinion, at this level anywhere else. There would not be a Premier League team who'd come in for him, and Leeds United is the biggest and best club Pat right now could get. So for me, I think you're probably looking at potentially like a Portsmouth or a team like that, or maybe Birmingham if they're being ambitious, Birmingham City, coming in and putting a massive amount of money on the table for him in terms of the wage structure. But this is what we've got to talk about. 40 grand a week, 35, 40 grand a week, that is still a mass amount of money at this level. And especially for someone who's not playing, the amount of money he pocketed from Leeds United in the Premier League when he was on 70 grand a week is a lot of money, a hell of a lot of money. I'm sure by the end of his period at Leeds, he will have got a lot of money. And in my opinion, for one season, really, stretched up 2 or 18 months, he's done well at Leeds United, hasn't he? He's done very, very well. And he's always been the main man when in my opinion, he shouldn't have been the main man. So all in all, this is interesting. But yeah, he's very loyal to Leeds. He doesn't want to go anywhere at this stage. Well, yeah. Nobody's going to be able to offer him that sort of money, and nobody would offer him that sort of money because they'd be absolutely ridiculous to do so. And yeah, I wonder what is next for Pat Bamford. I do wonder what is next. But if they're genuinely considering offering him a new deal, unless it's sort of cutting, there's just no way around it. There's just no way around it, in my opinion. So as far as I can remember, he had one season without injury. Yeah, I think you're right there, Andy. No place for sentimentality. Come on, 49, you're supposed to be ruthless, smart businessman. I respect the blow, but Bamford is way past his date. Diggler says, if Paddy has a new contract, then hopefully has a very low release clause on maybe the local visually impaired school will buy him. Paddy is a good player, but not clinical enough. Roland says, hi Zoko, as an option off the bench with a late goal or a cup run, I can't see why 49ers would give him a new term unless it would cost a bomb to pay him out for free. Yeah, but then again, Pat's got to agree to that, hasn't he? He's got to agree to that. And, why, if you're him, would you agree a new deal with Leeds United on reduced terms? If you'd still elongate that contract, that's fine. But if he really did care for Leeds, he'd do it on reduced terms. But that's not football, is it? He's never going to do that. And I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. So it is a job at the end of the day, and I completely get it when it comes to Pat Bamford. Just offer Paddy pay as you go. But yeah, I just don't think it's realistic. I don't think there's ever going to be anything to this. I'd hope, because I have belief in the 49ers. You guys all know that. But I would be stunned if a new deal was offered him. And I'd love to know where Ben got this information from. Maybe it's closer to the club. I don't know. But on a more positive note, Gruev has helped Bulgaria secure their first competitive win in 2 years, which is fantastic stuff. And I believe they've kept 2 clean sheets as well, which means that Gruev is on a list right now of 5 clean sheets, which I know you guys don't think would be a lot, but that is a considerable, for him to be part of 2 team structures, of which they've kept 5 clean sheets now. That's massive. And it's a big, big testament to him as well, because he's had a big involvement in both competitive games against the Belarus and Northern Ireland, of which they beat Northern Ireland, drew to Belarus. And he's had a massive impact, Gruev, and he's seen as a big thing over there. And, as a £4 million player that Leeds bought him in on, he's done exceptionally well, has to be said. A lot of people think I've got something against Gruev. I really haven't. I think at this level, he's a very, very useful player. I think he's very good at what he does at this level, has to be said. But I think he's a limited player as well. And when you look at the players that we've got at our disposal now, in Tanaka, in Joe Rothwell, and I will always say this, but I think Joe Rothwell offers you a lot more. I think Daniel Farke goes with Gruev because he offers him that defensive stability. And I think Daniel Farke would naturally rather go and pick up a point, have that sort of rear guard, that stability just in behind his attacking players. I think that's why Gruev gets picked. We've seen him start a little bit further forward, of which he does play a little bit more attacking for Bulgaria as well. We've seen him get a little bit further forward, but you can tell it's not his natural position. A natural position which Joe Rothwell takes up a little bit more naturally, and Tanaka would take up a little bit more naturally as well. So do I like Gruev? Yes, I think he's a very, very useful player at this level. There's talk of Dortmund in for him, for goodness sake, in the summer, and I think that's because he's good at what he does. Would he have been starting for Dortmund? Of course he wouldn't have been. However, that depth option of Gruev coming on, solidifying things up, being combative, being energetic in and around that midfield space, like it a lot. Like his endeavour around that space. And also, I think he gives you that quality. He does give you a little bit of quality. You look at what he did against Norwich last season. You look at the free kick that hit the bar against Portsmouth this season from set pieces. Free kick wise, has definitely been a development in the trajectory, flight of the ball. What I would say is his corners are terrible. They're terrible. Doesn't get any whip on them. Hits the first man 75, 80% of the time. And there was a stat flowing around that we obviously hadn't scored from a corner in 116 games. If you're not offering that much going forward in terms of goals and assists, which he doesn't that much, you've got to, at least when you put on set piece duty, beat the first man. I think that's probably the biggest critique I've got of Gruev. But what do you guys think of him? Would you be looking at putting Rothwell or Tanaka in ahead of him? Morning, Conlad. Hi, MW. Rick's in the building. We have a far better squad than the US national team, so we'll be fine in the championship. Sell him when we go up. Gruev is another one. Is he Premier League level? I personally, John, I think he's a depth option. He'd be a depth option in the Premier League. Would he be starting week in, week out in the Premier League? I don't think so. Roland says, I rate Gruev a lot higher this season, especially moving forward. But for the Prem, I can't see it. Al should be in front of him with Rothwell. Yeah, that's my thoughts, Roland. I just think Al and Rothwell, if you're looking at both sets of three midfielders, I guess, or four. Let's look at all four. Ampadu can get forward. He can defend extremely well as well. He's played in the 8 before. I think Ampadu, genuinely, if you pushed him a little bit higher, like he was at points for Sheffield United, when he just wasn't part of that back 3, but he was part of the midfield space. Venezia as well, Spezia, he would push a little bit further forward, as well as being part of a back 2, back 3 at points. Look, Ampadu can do it, and we've seen Ampadu do it as well in terms of getting forward and being part of that attacking print. Gruev, I think he can do it, but I think his natural disposition is to get the ball and move it laterally, and maybe you saw in the last game, the strike on goal wasn't a natural thing for him. I think it was the first effort of the game, wasn't it? Just straight into the keeper's hands, but it's just not a natural thing for him. I like him. I think he's definitely advanced in his game, but you look at Rothwell and Tanaka, and you can tell we've not seen a lot of Tanaka, and like I've said with Brenden Aaronson, you can't judge them too much so far, and it's the same with all of the Leeds squad, really, but you've seen Rothwell play in the Championship for many years, Blackburn, obviously Southampton very, very recently. And you know what he's about. You know, how Tanaka's had this reputation, blah 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 blah, in terms of what he can do. We've looked at Tanaka for years, haven't we? We know he can get further forward, and he's natural there as well. We'll get you a goal, we'll get you an assist. I just think there's more natural players in that position, but they can defend and be combative as well. So yeah, Gruev offers you a decent option, but for me, he'd be below Rothwell and Tanaka, personally. But yeah, what this means, Bamford has a wage of 28 to 35 grand a week. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think the rumor that's been going around a lot of this season has been that he's on sort of 35 grand a week. Tanaka, can't see Rothwell starting. Matt J, morning, Connor. Hope all is well, mate. How you, pal? Hope you're all good. Yeah, so also it looks on a good front that Leeds United are going to be getting a couple of injuries back. You know, we've spoken about Pat Bamford in this video as well in terms of giving him a new contract, and it looks like apparently Bamford's going to be back this weekend. And obviously more beneficial for Leeds United, Dan James is going to be back as well, which is good news for Leeds United, of course, having another option there in Dan. And it just throws up the conversation once again of what the Leeds do. You know, what the Leeds do against Burnley. Burnley have got a hell of a lot of injuries. Apparently, Manuel Benson's going to be out for this one. Steve as well at the back is going to be out for this one, apparently. And Leeds United bringing back Dan James and Pat Bamford. Looks like we will have a full array of players to keep, you know, an eye on in this next game against Burnley. The one to keep particular focus on, however, is Willian Yonto, who suffered a really, really nasty tackle against San Marino about 3 or 4 days ago. It's going to be fascinating to see his development, and is he going to be able to play against Burnley? And I think for me, against Burnley, that's going to be the real test for Leeds, the biggest test so far. You know, come up against West Bromwich Albion. I've said before, if I think that was if that was a boxing match, I think West Brom would have shaded it, which means absolutely nothing. Leeds came out of there with a point. However, it's going to be interesting with, you know, how is Farke going to set up against a top team at this level like Burnley? You know, they're not the Burnley that were here under Company, nowhere near. But it's going to be a good Burnley side. It's going to be a decent Burnley side who I still think are going to be, you know, challenging us at the top of the table, you know, or we're going to be challenging them, vice versa. I think Burnley are going to turn it around. You see it in the Championship a lot of the time. You know, the team might have a slow start, i.e. us, last season, and I think they will turn it around. I think Burnley are going to be strong. I think the January window is going to be important for Burnley as well. Suffered a lot of late departures in this window, but I think it's going to be a really tough game at the weekend, a really tough game, and it's going to be fascinating to see how Farke sets up. Is he going to set up with Gruev in there as that defensive, you know, disposition? Is he going to stick with him in there with Ampadu, or is he going to go a little bit more adventurous and stick out Tanaka in and really put the faith within Tanaka? We know he's been utilised already in Bundesliga 2. He looks very fit when it comes to it as well. Rothwell is up to scratch. I don't think Rothwell's going to get a lot of minutes this year, which it's a shame. But yeah, obviously the rotation on Daniel Farke there is going to be huge in terms of in the busy periods leading up to Christmas, rotating that midfield, rotating, you know, what we've got going forward as well. We know Mano Solomon played for Israel in their 3-1 defeat as well. So is he going to be fit and fighting and ready for this one? Ramazani is probably itching to go. But yeah, I find this, you know, obviously Joseph getting the goal against Scotland, which is you know, massive for his confidence. I think he's on the run now, isn't he? He's gonna, that's where he's gonna start his goal tally increasing, I think. But yeah, we're in a really good position fitness wise in terms of the squad. But I do wonder how he's going to set up here. How is he going to set up? And yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Nonso is the one to keep an eye on. Well, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've seen some of you just join now. Shout out to all of you guys. Make sure you slap in a like on the video. You can also rewatch this. If you go right to the beginning, watch it all again. Let me know what you think. We've spoken about Bamford. We've spoken about some of the international lads. And obviously Brenden Aaronson. But we're back every morning at 10 a.m. to give you your Leeds United news and have a little bit of discourse, debate, discussion throughout it. We've got your Patreon. And listen, if you want some more depth, we've got articles and we're looking to take other people. If you're interested in journalism, you're interested in getting some articles on a site, you know, and being part of something here, let me know. oneleadsfanchannel@gmail.com. We're trying to build something on a journalistic platform as well. oneleads.com. Look, you've got all of your stuff on there as well. Patreon. If you want to head on over there, everybody, we're going to be doing a giveaway on there, which is probably going to start today. We're going to have across the pond over there, Generation Leeds, all building up to the big fixture at the weekend. We've got the debrief as well coming on Tuesday. And we've got other things. We'll have other things coming throughout the week, as you guys know. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Before you leave, make sure you slap a like on the video. It's been Connor. And I'll see you guys soon if there's any development today. See you in a bit.